Hi, my name's Jean Schumacher, and I would like to take you on a journey into what is whole food plant-based living. So what is whole food plant-based? Well, you're talking about food that is whole, unrefined, or minimally refined plants. For example, fruits, vegetables. You're looking at starches, rice, potatoes, pasta, whole grains, legumes. But the best way to talk about it is to talk about what it's not. So basically you're talking about excluding meat, fish, dairy, eggs, highly processed foods, refined sugar, and oils. Let me give you an example. This car right here, this is when I win lotto and I can afford to buy this car. This is a 1969 metallic blue convertible Corvette power car. It is beautiful. Love this car. Kerosene is a great fuel, wonderful fuel, but if you put kerosene in this car, it will be a sad day indeed because you're going to kill the engine. And I compare this analogy of putting the wrong fuel into a car as putting the wrong fuel into our bodies. So that's kind of like what we're talking about here as these all being the wrong fuel. So let's look at what is the right fuel. I usually start my day off with some form of oats in one way or another. They're filling, they're good, and it just doesn't get much better than these simple ingredients, especially with berries. Oh my gosh, so good. This is amazing. These are corn, black bean pancakes with some salsa. Oh my goodness, so yumminess. And I've taken these to parties and I've made them like into small hors d'oeuvres. I have to hover over the plate because they're the first things to go. Oh, these are so good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they are. Berries are my new crack. I love berries and I have berries almost every day in some form. I make these beg-worthy banana nut muffins. Oh, the yumminess. Little tapas to eat. Some hummus, some pita bread, some potatoes. And if you notice, a lot of these things are very visually stimulating to you. You like these foods. They resonate with you because this is what we're supposed to be eating. Shepherd's pot pie, yumminess. Veggie burgers. And please be careful with veggie burgers. Engine 2 makes a great veggie burger that doesn't have oil and it's somewhat low on the salt spectrum, because what happens when you get a lot of the veggie burgers, they use oil and salt in very high quantities, which are not good for you. So you have to learn how to read the labels. Rice casserole with lentils, yumminess, all kinds of casseroles. Oh, this is awesome pizza. Just awesome. All kinds of soups, chowders, and of course chilies. Love those chilies, especially over like I make a baked potato for lunch most days and I pour chili or something over the baked potato to eat. Oh, yumminess. Spring thing pasta. Love pastas. There's so many different kinds of varieties of pasta that you can make. And let's not forget dessert. This is not a diet where we are restricting calories. The objective is for you to start eating foods that come pretty much the way they were packaged in nature. This is a rice pudding with a mixed berry sauce on top, and there's a layer of chia seeds in the middle. Excellent. Carrot cake. Ooh, yumminess. And don't get between me and these brownies. These are raspberry chocolate truffle brownies. Oh, so good. So why eat this way? Well, Caldwell Esselstyn has shown in his book How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease that you can reverse heart disease. And I love his phrase. He says, it's like a toothless paper tiger. And I love that because you can reverse it. And he's shown that and demonstrates it daily. MS, Dr. John McDougall has shown through his mentor Roy Swank that you can either halt the progression of MS or in some cases reverse it. Osteoporosis. You would think in a country that has the highest amount of dairy consumption that we would have the strongest bones, but we don't. Countries that don't eat dairy products tend to have very, very strong bones. High blood pressure. Walter Kempner at Duke University showed that you can reverse high blood pressure without any medication, just by the food you're eating. Neil Bernard talked about type 2 diabetes and how you can reverse it. Acne, I love. There is an awesome video on Dr. McDougall's website. Nina and Randa showed how you can cure acne, they show you their before pictures and after, and they talk about what they did. But basically they went whole food plant-based, eliminated oil from their diet, and it cleared up very quickly. And for the men, guess what? This whole food plant-based diet is going to clean out your arteries, and that's going to allow blood to flow and flow everywhere to your body so that your flag will rise once again, and you're not going to need Viagra. So that's a win-win for men and other side for women. Let's just talk about the oil itself. If you're looking at olive oil, for example, all the nutrients have been removed. I mean, it takes like 7.6 pounds of olives to make just a 500 milliliter bottle. And part of the problem is that the oil doesn't have the bulk. If you're trying to eat 7.5 pounds of olives, that's going to be a lot of bulk. You're not going to eat 7.5 pounds in one sitting. The oil, when you take it out of the original package, it's not going to convey to your senses how many calories you've eaten. You eat 500 calories of oil, and it barely fills your stomach. And you're still going to be hungry. You're still going to be looking for nutrients because your body's like, hey, I need the right fuel. This isn't it. You eat 500 calories of processed and fatty foods, and it's going to fill up your stomach, but not to the point where your body's going, okay, we're done. But if you eat 500 calories of whole food, vegetables, starches, whole food plant-based, your body's going to go, okay, we're done. Because it's going to fill your stomach. Your stretch receptors are going to go, okay, time to send the message to the brain, we're done. It also has negative impact on blood vessels. It's going to promote heart disease, and it's going to slow down the amount of oxygen going in your body, being carried through.
Tell me, have you ever known people who decided to skip lunch because they noticed they got sleepy and sluggish after they ate? If you sit down and eat a high-fat meal, that fat in that meal has a direct impact upon how your blood flows. The blood circulation flowing here very rapidly. And it goes through the blood vessels, and the blood cells, they hit and they bounce off each other, and they don't stick at all.
The way it should be.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. That's normal circulation. Now, when you feed them a diet that has 67% of the calories as fat, then what you see is the circulation sticking together and sludging. And as a result, the blood flow is much decreased to the tissues. And what happens is you actually decrease the amount of oxygen in the blood by about 20%.
That looks like rush hour now.
This sludging effect lasts for hours. And actually, the blood doesn't return to normal for about 10 to 12 hours. So what happens is somebody sits down and eats a typical American diet. Their blood cells stick together. They feel sleepy and sluggish. Well, that's, a day-to-day impact. But can you imagine what would happen if you took somebody who had narrowed arteries to their heart or to their brain, and you caused the blood to sludge like this? What happens is people get chest pain, and they also get little tiny strokes as a result of that.
So let's talk about calcium, because that's one of the things. Oh my God, where am I going to get my calcium from? Oh my gosh, oh, I'm going to die. No. First of all, let's talk about what calcium is. It's a mineral, and it's found in the soil. It's absorbed in the roots of the plants. Then the animals eat the plants, then you eat the animals. Not very efficient. Animals get their calcium from eating the plants and metabolizing it. So it'd be a lot better for you if you could just skip the animal part and go straight to the plants and get your calcium from the plants. So there's two major factors in leaching calcium from the bones. First of all, we're consuming a high sodium diet, which increases calcium loss. Look on the back of any processed food package, and you're going to see majority of the products contain sodium. You want to make sure, if you're looking at the number of calories, let's say it's 100 calories, you want to make sure whatever product you're eating has less than 100 milligrams of salt. You want to make sure that there's a 1-to-1 or less ratio of sodium. So you want to be aware of this in your diet. Most processed foods contain a tremendous amount of sodium in it, and we're getting far too much in our diet, which increases our calcium loss. The other major issue is that we're eating a lot of highly acidic foods. Once we get those into our body is alkaline, and once we continue to eat these proteins which are amino acids, we have to alkalize that in our body. So if you don't have the correct nutrients or the minerals in your body, guess where you're going to take them from? Your bones. So let's look at, on the left is a normal bone structure, and that's what it should be. It's thick, healthy. On the right, the calcium has been leached from the bones, and it creates this almost like honeycomb pattern, very, very weak in terms of its structure and very fragile. So what is a formula for strong bones? Well, first of all, you need to have enough vitamin D, which is a key factor in calcium absorption. Vitamin D is actually not a vitamin. It's a hormone that you create in your body. And if you sit outside between 10 and 2, primarily you can get enough vitamin D in your body so you won't need to take a supplement. The other thing is to practice strength training, because when you stress your bones out, it's going to make them stronger. And I'm not talking about bench pressing like 500 pounds. I'm not talking that level of stress. A small weight, 2, 3, 4, 5 pound weights, they will start to stress your body. I mean, obviously, if you can do a little bit more, that's great, but you don't have to majorly stress your bones to strengthen them. But you do have to do some form of strength training. I usually respond with a bigger question: just how much protein do you really need? That's the bigger question. The World Health Organization recommends 5% of your calories as protein. That's it. And along the way, we've kind of been taught that animal-based foods are the only ones that contain protein. Not so. Not really. Plants contain a phenomenal amount of protein. And if you eat a whole food plant-based diet, you can get anywhere from like 8 to about 18% protein in your diet. If you think back when you were a baby and you were breastfeeding, breast milk only contains about 5 to 6% protein. That's it. That's all you need. And that's when you need the most protein ever in your life, because you're like doubling in size continually. The bigger problem is once you consume too much protein, you have to get rid of it. And that's going to put a huge stress on your kidneys. The World Health Organization recommends 5% of your calories as protein. For a man, based upon 3,000 calories per day, that's 38 grams, and 29 grams for a woman eating 2,300 calories. Most of us don't recognize how much that is in terms of food. If you're still eating meat, that's about 4 ounces of chicken. About what you could put into the palm of your hand is about 36 grams of protein. That's it. That's all you need for the day. The rest, your body has to process and get rid of. What about supplements? Colin Campbell in his book really talks a lot about the food being eaten as a whole, and that's where you get your nutrients from. For example, what happens when you eat an apple? Well, an apple contains thousands of antioxidants, and each of these powerful chemicals plays a huge role in supporting our health. These chemicals impact thousands upon thousands of metabolic reactions inside the human body. But trying to calculate the specific influence of each of these chemicals, it's not enough to explain the effect of the apple as a whole on your body. Dr. Campbell's idea is to eat the nutrients in their original package, as opposed to taking them out in isolation, which is like a supplement. This is a reductionist mindset, and he thinks of the chemicals in food as working together like a symphony. The takeaway message is that nutrition is incredibly complex, with millions of working parts, interactions, and feedback loops. So best to get your nutrients in the original package. Now there is one exception. That's B12. So B12, and please do your research on this, because there's 2 types of B12 on the market in terms of supplements. There's cyanocobalamin and there's methylcobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is the most commonly supplemented form of vitamin B12. It doesn't actually occur in plants or animal tissues. In other words, it's chemically synthesized. Here's the other part. If you look at the name, cyano, well, that contains a cyanide molecule, and most people associate this as being poisonous. There's not that great amount, and from a toxicology point of view, it's not that significant. But here's the problem. Your body still is going to have to remove and eliminate this compound. Rather than choose that form, you might want to look for methylcobalamin, which is better absorbed and retained in higher amounts within your tissues, and it's used a lot more effectively. The methylcobalamin is used primarily in your liver, in your brain, and in your nervous systems. The lowest dosage that you could possibly get is what you want to look for, like 250 micrograms or less if you can find it. Vitamin D is also the other exception, and you might want to have your blood tested. It's not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone that's created by your body, and it's better to get it from sunlight as opposed to getting it from supplements. Dr. McDougall has a lot of research on this on his website. Another aspect about the supplements is that if you take them, then you're going to have to deal with them in one way, shape, or form. Anytime you take something, whether it's a vitamin or food or medicine, your body has to process it. And I've been reading in Neil Bernard's latest book called Power Foods for the Brain. He talks about how the brain contains the beta amyloid plaques. These kind of look like little meatballs in between the brain cells. So when they took these plaques apart, they not only found the beta amyloid protein, but they also found certain metals, for example, like iron. Yes, we need iron in our body, and traces of the iron are part of your hemoglobin molecules that your red blood cells use to carry oxygen in your bloodstream. And if you didn't have it, you would be anemic. But the problem is the excess of iron, and that can threaten your brain health. They've also been shown this for copper, and there's also aluminum. The copper and the iron you need for your body, and that's true. But if you take excess of it, your body has to deal with it. The aluminum, period, is, it's also under suspicion at this point. The idea remains controversial, so while the researchers duke it out, in the meantime, protect yourself, because your body doesn't need aluminum. So please check your deodorant. Don't use aluminum pots and pans. And of course, there's now aluminum being found in baking powder. Let me just share a little bit about my journey. My trip begins to the hospital with 105-degree fever. My blood pressure was off the charts, and I have never been so sick in my entire life. I don't know what it was. I don't really care. It was some sort of infection. The good news was the doctor who treated me was not only a medical doctor, but she was a nutritionist, which is a highly rare combination in this day and age. She started me on this journey with prevent and reverse heart disease, and then of course forks over knives, and I haven't looked back. I've changed my health destiny without question. This was in '09 on my wedding day, this picture, and in the bottom corner of it is what I look like today. I still am on a journey, and I still have some weight to lose. But it's a journey. Rather than focusing on the weight loss, which is great, don't get me wrong, I'm looking more at my health. I've never felt better in my entire life. I'm taking charge of my health destiny. Before you begin this lifestyle change, I can't say this enough, but do check with your doctor. You need to get a blood work base so that you can use this for comparison as your body begins to go through a lot of changes. And also, if you're on medication, some of them are going to need to be changed. Like if you're on a high blood pressure medication, most likely you're going to need to revise that and change it. Dr. McDougall has a great website that gives a lot of health benefit and information, because I hate to say it, but most medical doctors are not going to have a clue what you're talking about. They're not trained in whole food plant-based nutrition. They don't understand the power of this lifestyle and what it can do to heal your body. So definitely you need to check with your doctor, but in most cases you're going to have to educate your doctor as well. Now, there's a growing group of doctors that are treating whole food plant-based and do understand this, and you can find them. They're out there. There's several different resources that you can use that can help you to find a whole food plant-based doctor. In our next lecture, we're going to talk about the whole food plant-based research. We're going to focus on Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Colin Campbell, and Dr. John McDougall. I'll see you then.